In the last 3 years, the health sector under the present administration has attracted attention, mostly due to unpleasant events, which reflects the state of healthcare delivery in Nigeria. Our guest on this week's episode of the program talks about some of these issues. Hello there. Welcome to Dateline Abuja. I'm IBRAHIM, ADDRA. From outbreak of diseases to doctor strike and the successful inclusion of the 1% Consolidated Revenue Fund into the 2018 budget for basic healthcare provision in accordance with the National Health Act, the health sector under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has witnessed several ups and downs. Now, in the second part of this conversation with the Minister of Health, we look at the success of some of the policies in this sector. But first, what are the stories that made the headlines in the nation's capital this week? President Muhammadu Buhari has directed ministries, departments and agencies of government to implement the recommendations of the Corruption Risk Assessment Report produced by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. He gave the directive when he unveiled the report at the opening ceremony of a corruption risk assessment training for heads and senior officers of anti-graft agencies from African countries.
The Anti-Corruption Academy of Nigeria has a robust curriculum and expertise cutting across the spectrum of anti-corruption training, which can be adapted for other countries, taking into consideration national specifics. To further strengthen this institution, the Academy has our support as it moves towards its objective of being an African center of excellence in anti-corruption training and capacity building. I would like here to point out that the training on corruption risk assessment can only have meaning when the risk assessors are put to work. In Nigeria, the methodology has been deployed to a number of sectors.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated 2 committees that will assist government to eliminate substance and drug abuse in Nigeria. The committees are the High-Level Ministerial Steering Committee, headed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, and the Presidential Advisory Committee headed by former Lagos State Military Administrator General Buba Marwa. The Advisory Committee also has the wife of the President, Haja Aisha Buhari, and that of the Vice President, Dolapo Shibaju, as members.
The Ministerial Screening Committee on the Elimination of Drug Abuse is charged with the responsibilities indicated in the following terms of reference. A. Integrate drug abuse issue into extant government policies and new initiatives. B. Provide strategic direction and guidance on drug abuse issues. C. Serve as a linkage between the federal government and other entities. And D. Synchronize and translate government policies into implementation plan and promote necessary executive legislative action.
The lingering industrial action embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities continues as a conciliatory meeting by the Minister of Labour and Employment adjourned sitting to December 17, 2018, when the federal government hopes to deliver on its promises to the striking lecturers. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, took over the meeting after several meetings between the unions and the Minister of Education, Alhaji Adamu, failed to achieve any result.
We've finished our deliberations for today, and I'm happy to report to you that we touched and discussed the areas that are outstanding implementation-wise from the Memorandum of Action which we agreed to in 2017. Some of these areas we have substantial compliance, and some other areas have not been fully dealt with.
President Muhammadu Buhari joined other presidential candidates to sign a peace deal that seeks to guide the conduct of candidates and their supporters before, during and after the 2019 general elections. Other candidates who signed the accord include the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, and the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Mr. Donald Duke.
By agreeing to sign this covenant for peace, all of you are committing yourselves to ensuring and enduring peace in Nigeria before, during, and after the elections.
The Federal Executive Council has received a report detailing the growth of the nation's gross domestic product in the third quarter of 2018.
The economy, when measured by real GDP, grew at 1.81% in the third quarter 2018, compared to 1.5% in the second quarter of 2018. The Federal Executive Council was particularly encouraged to note that economic growth continues to be driven by the non-oil sector, which grew by 2.32% in the third quarter. This has been the strongest growth in non-oil GDP in 12 consecutive quarters since the fourth quarter of 2015.
The Independent National Electoral Commission has signed a memorandum of understanding with 3 transport unions in the country to ensure efficient logistics for the 2019 general election. The unions include the National Union of Road Transport Workers, the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, and the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria.
We want to reassure Nigerians that we are determined that all polling units nationwide shall open by 8 in the morning. We are determined to give Nigerians a pleasant voting experience in the 2019 general elections. We shall track the movement of vehicles to ensure that no personnel, no material will be diverted. They will go straight to locations where we need them. We will also require you to swear to an oath of neutrality as your participation in the delivery of electoral logistics requires absolute neutrality and impartiality.
President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the House of Representatives asking for a slot on Wednesday, the 19th of December, to formally present the 2019 appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly.
May I crave the kind indulgence of the House of Representatives to grant me the slot of 11 hours on Wednesday, 19th December 2018, to formally present the 2019 appropriation bill to the joint session of the National Assembly.
And President Muhammadu Buhari met with the executives of the Nigeria Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers in the State House, where he pointed out that any reform in the oil and gas sector must be well thought out. He also spoke about government's plans for the nation's refineries.
I am aware that the NNPC has concluded the process for selecting the private sector partners that will rehabilitate the refineries. I am informed that they are working out finances and hopefully work will commence soon.
Vice President Professor Emil Shibajo presided over an extended National Economic Council meeting. Addressing the meeting, the Vice President urged states to resist playing politics with the issues of human capital development, asking for more concerted collaboration between states and federal government and not trade blames to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past.
The only way to succeed is by recognizing that this is a joint and several responsibility. This is not and should never be a platform for blame games or buck passing. In the past, this has not worked and will not work now. There's much learning to be shared and exchanged, to ensure that we are not repeating the mistakes that have already been made.